Sorry it's been such a long time since I've been making any of these videos to help you with your classroom gamifications. I had some medical things going on, which kind of a scary, uncertain November, December, but everything is clear, dodged all the big bullets, everything is looking good. So I'm back, and I had some people talk about BattleBoards, and I'm seeing actually a lot of that start popping up on social media like Twitter and Instagram. So I've done BattleBoard 101 where I kind of explain the basic use of how you can use it. I actually had a student teacher by the name of a Mr. Pendleton Cox, who was a tabletop gamer totally by fluke. And when he came into my classroom, we actually started brainstorming some ideas. So we've actually revamped the idea of the BattleBoard and kind of created the BattleBoard 2.0, and it has been a massive success with the kids, the way we've changed it and added more curriculum-based stuff to it. And I think it's really, really cool. So I want to share it, I guess, advanced battleboarding or battleboarding 2.0. So let's check it out. So if we kind of just look at the basics before I explain, you're going to notice in the previous video I had movement tiles. And I decided to take those movement tiles out to create kind of a free land. So the idea now is we're trying to recreate Scientia Terra in the exact unit and area that we are curricularly by creating that environment, I guess you could say, in the BattleBoard. So kind of that medieval wasteland. So kind of taking out those tiles, and it actually gives it kind of a slicker, cleaner look. Well, the other thing by removing the tiles we've realized is that it actually puts strategic movement. The first mistake that we realized was that kids are moving around this way too fast. So all movement now is done based on inches. So we use a 6-inch ruler, and we actually have all the movements happen by inches. So it's actually total free exploration, which is something I referenced in the first video. Second thing you're going to notice now is that you can actually leave the physical BattleBoard and start moving on to the actual shelving. So I'm pretty blessed in my classroom here. I've got lots of extra shelving. So I've created a variety of different areas and locations in the classroom where I have been able to expand the BattleBoard further and create different scenarios and areas of exploration for kids so that they have the ability to actually explore things further than just the standard battleboarding stuff that I was doing originally. What this has created is the ability to add different curricular goals and different side quests and bonus missions inside our game so that we can push things further in depth for kids who are interested in doing so. So the neat part about this is that the BattleBoard is continuing to expand and continuing to grow. The third thing we wanted to include was more ethics, more decision making, and more scenarios where consequences to actions would happen. And one huge success to this has been the amount and the diversity in which I've been to add and to expand to the game. So let me kind of expand that a little bit further. So traditionally we had kids start right here. They'd take one of these little figures here, and before we used to have the tiles. So the tiles would run along the sand and then kind of go through the board. So back to the issue with movement is that the kids would just fly up and down the board, and then at the end of every battle they ended up restarting at the beginning, which became really, I guess you could say, static for the kids. So we wanted to create a more fluid and dynamic thing. So what we've done now is you can see these variety of characters that are at the starting point right here, and some that are actually further out in the game exploring. And what's happening now is that this board does not change. We used to have where if you picked up an item, the item was then replaced. And that became troublesome because kids would go run to the same spot, pick up the same items, or run to items that they knew were good. So now what we've done is we've had it so they start here and they start to explore further out into the board. And as they explore further out into the board, the items that they pick up and interact with are not replaced. Another issue that we had is that kids would come from the start, run around, and at the end of every battle they would just select and keep the items. What we've actually added now when we have a character who's on one, right here, as you can see that we have these little trigger tiles or checkpoints. So a lot of games commonly have checkpoints. You got to reach an objective. So what happens is now as characters pick up things, for example, you can see this character has picked up a key and some flowers. Those items do not belong to that character until they reach one of these checkpoints. This allows and forces kids to be strategic about their movements, what they pick up, and when they use their roles that they've earned throughout the year. So we still do the rules in the fact that when you do these BattleBoard or battle sheets, as I've called them, just kind of check-in sheets to make sure that they're understanding the curriculum, and you get every 4 damage equals a roll. We still do that. But what I've started to do now is I've started to award extra rolls. I've introduced cards that allow further exploration of the board. because sometimes first come, first serve really is reflected in the real world, so we wanted to mimic that into the game. Now, we also wanted to push kids who wanted to go further in the curriculum and go deeper, which I'm a huge fan of, especially having teaching science, because I'm a big believer, and most people in the scientific community way above me agree that most of the basic problems have been solved with the simple solutions. So now we really need to create those deep, inspired thinkers who are going to take those risks. So what we started to do is add to the BattleBoard, and we started to add events. So let me kind of show you what those look like. This is an event I've recently added. You're going to see 5 colorless mages. Ironically, we're doing the light unit right now in grade 8 science. And you're going to see these little question mark tiles. If kids were to approach these people, they're going to get a specific event and task where they're going to have to figure something out in order to earn one of those tiles. Now, I know a lot of my students watch these videos from time to time, so I am not going to divulge any more information, but the whole goal here is you're going to want to get your character to this tile right here, which is going to trigger a conversation with these individuals. And the cool part about that is that is a specific event that'll last for the unit of light, then it will disappear. So some kids will want to get there, earn extra rolls, and try a lot harder in order to figure out what it is that secret event is going to be. Another incredibly huge issue I had was the fact that kids would just fight everybody and everything. So they would encounter a monster on the board, they would run over, they would fight it, they would kill it because the risk wasn't there. So I've created a different system with the help of that Mr. Cox, my student teacher, who is, if you're looking to hire somebody, a brilliant human, and you should hire him because he's going to be a phenomenal teacher when he graduates around May, is we've created these battle tables. So what happens now is students will come to the battle board and they will face the battle board looking like this. From here, they will place their character cards. So let me take 2 seconds to set that up and I'll show you what it looks like. So in my game, I give kids character cards at the beginning of the year. So one of the kind of things that I thought has been quite successful is kids get to pick a character class that reflects them and actually gives them some perks and abilities. So when they're ready to battle, they'll come with their character cards up onto the board, and they'll have the option now to equip items and armor. This is a huge game changer, and I'm trying to explain to this why. Previously, kids would run with their character up the board, and they would always be able to attack with a d20, or for people who are non-tabletop gamers, a 20-sided dice. And that posed little to no risk to any of them, because they would run up the board, roll, hit a few 20s, kill, and then continue. We needed to embark strategy and thinking. So I created different types of cards. I have my old beat up armor cards. I don't know why I grabbed Shard of Scroll, we'll just put that away. And I've got, for example, an armor. Now this is done with Hearthstone card creators, and I like that because specifically it has to do with this number. So at the beginning of a battle, kids have the ability to equip their characters. So this knight might equip a sword, and this priest might equip a leather helmet. Now as they move through, they roll a 6-sided dice and they move using a ruler. Every digit on the dice equals an inch. 6 inches, 5 inches, etc. As they move throughout the board, they can go directionally any way they want. So this character might start here, roll a 5, they would move and they want to proceed in this direction. They would put the ruler down 5 inches from the front of the base of the character and then travel 5 inches that direction. Then they might travel this way, this way. It's totally free for exploration. As a side note, the rule for picking up an item, so they come across, let's say, this piece of grass or rope and they want to pick it up. The character has to have their base of their character touching the item in question so that they can pick it up. So as they advance, they might enter combat with a character. So let's just pick this person up and let's just drop it in front of this phoenix looking thing. So here they are ready to fight. This character possesses no weapons. You can see by looking at them that there are no weapons there. So that character will fight with a d8 dice. Meaning anytime this character fights, and these are all predetermined by me, which is why I knew this in advance. So you can set any dice you want. But this character will fight with a d8, meaning anytime they attack this character, they will have the ability to do a maximum of 8 damage. This character right now, if you equip no weapons, punches. And because they punch, they can only roll with a d6. This is where the ability to equip and stockpile items and armor is vital. If we are fighting, and I'll just zoom out here. if we are fighting and these are the representations of your guild, you would start by getting a 4-sided die. Now, I had an incredible generous donation to my classroom. Literally all of these dice were donated to me. And I'm very fortunate that I've now got everything from a 2-sided dice, which I guess you could say is a coin, but it's kind of neat because it is like a little booklet, to 4-sided dice all the way up to 20 and even a 30-sided monster dice, which is awesome. So they would take the 4-sided dice and they would roll if they were fighting this monster. And what they would do is they would roll their dice to determine, first of all, who is attacking. So if we rolled a 4, that means the mage would be the person that is attacking in that round. It's very similar to an RPG. Now you're going to notice this mage has nothing equipped. It's just a bare mage. That means that they would roll with a 6-sided dice to attack. Therefore, they're inflicting less damage and making it risky. If you were to roll a 1, that means this knight would be the person attacking and they have a sword. In my game, swords are worth a d20, so they inflict huge damage. So using a sword gives you a massive advantage. But I wanted it to be with chance, because a lot of tabletop games and the life in general has an element of chance. So even equipping items does not necessarily mean that you will have a benefit. So if you never roll a 1 when it is your turn to attack, your sword actually never gets used. Then we had the introduce armor. When the character attacks you, you need to determine who is getting hit. So you again roll the 4-sided dice, and if it lands on, let's say, a 3, this steampunk will be the person kind of getting hit, again, RPG style, and they have no armor equipped, so if the character rolled a 6, you would lose 6 damage. Here, however, is why I like the Hearthstone cards. I created a series of helmets, body armors, and I'm going to expand on this in the future. But this number in the corner little jewel is the crucial part. It means that every time this character is selected. So as I explained, you determine who fights. You also determine who is getting attacked. So because of that, if I were to roll a 2 when it is the enemy's turn, that means that this is the person that's getting attacked. However, they're wearing a leather helmet. And that is going to remove 4 damage that they receive every time they're selected. So if the same attack were to happen with a 6, but on this character, they would only lose 4 damage, or sorry, they would lose 6 minus the 4 that's protected, so they would only lose 2 damage. This again gives you an advantage in battle and forces strategy, thinking, and using of gold. Because as a side note, this year in particular, lots of students have not been using their gold. They've been stockpiling it. So I'm trying to get them to use it, and it's actually been proving quite effective. A couple other things. Any character that you encounter now, you determine the HP. They can go anywhere from 10 to 15 HP if it is a small little spider or a little not so dangerous character, to someone like this bad guy who is fully armored with a giant battle hammer who would have up to 80 HP and deal damage with a d20 because they are clearly ready for war. So attacking this character is a significant higher risk than, for example, attacking this little unarmed spider. What we've realized by creating these different variations to the battle board is we focused a lot of the initiatives that we were hoping to in the beginning. We didn't want kids to run around without thinking, because that is what I believe happens too much in schools. There's not enough thinking. It's just do because you're told to. So we wanted more thinking. We wanted more strategy. We wanted a bigger emphasis on collaboration and risk-taking. So before, as I just showed you, the spider versus that big armored guy, the spider would do the same damage to you and have the same hit points as that larger creature. So it was no benefit to who you fought. You could just mow your way through the board and attack. Then you restarted it again. This free movement and the board never resetting was a huge game changer to the kids, because now there's so much more strategy and thinking and planning. And it's been a lot more fun because where you're going, you're sometimes racing and competing versus other guilds to get to the key that you just found, or a secret event, or whatever, something might pop up brand new on the board. Now, a couple other variations I'm going to go through quickly, and I hope this is making sense. I know I'm kind of going through and I'm choppy all over the place. It's not the cleanest video I made, but it's report card season for us right now, so it's been quite busy. One significant change we've got now is that each guild, in which there are 20, there are 15 in grade 8 and 5 in grade 7. Remember, 8s are the good and 7 are actually working for the Minotaur King or my main bad guy. and they're represented by a different character. So you can actually fight guild versus guild now. And kids have actually been doing alliances, a little bit of backstabbing, a little bit of truth mending and stuff, and it's actually been really neat to see the different dynamics, collaborations, and strategies as have been developing throughout the course of this. So as they actually move and progress through the board, they might run into each other. So in this case right here, we've got a character right here who is being followed closely behind by a character right here and a character right here. At the beginning of the, once we did this new variation, we just let the kids pick over a lunch period which characters they wanted to represent themselves, which was kind of pretty neat. And as we went forward again, you actually have moments where these characters meet each other, and instead of battling me representing monsters or bad guys, they're actually battling guild versus guild. So the final little variation that we had was we had to have a master tracking sheet for the health of these characters. And it looks like this. I've created this master tracking sheet where the kids can track their own individual health, and this is representative of tests and individual boss battles. However, I needed a variation of this for the characters on the board, because those characters have a set and finite health that can be raised or lowered, you know, by getting hit, taking damage, or eating food to replenish. So I needed to have a secret document that I tracked the health of the characters on the battle board. So if a student were to fight another guild member, or those little battle board characters now have their own lives of their own, were to fight another one, they would actually be represented here by their guild, and I'll flash it really quickly, their health. So each character, when they start the game on the new and improved little battle board system, has it so that they all start with 75 hit points. And as they advance through the battle board, whether they're all the way in the corner over here or all the way in the corner by this castle, as they fight and battle people, the health of their individual character is manipulated back and forth. So if they fight a spider, take 10 damage, now they go down to 65. Then someone said, well, what if our character dies? So I've created a new updated battle sheet document, which I will put on my website in a little blog post to go with this. This explains the rules of fighting other guilds, and it explains the weaponry, about how I use the different weapons for attacking and equipping armor. Everything I explained in this video. It might be a little clearer in this document as I'm kind of flying through this. Something I'm going to talk about later in a blog post is actually giving the characters abilities for guild versus guild battles, you know, mages and magic, priests and healing. And the incredible part about this is that someone said, well, what if my character dies on the battle board? What's the consequence? If you remember, I showed you the individual battle sheet that was kind of glossy. Those are the individual items and gold that you carry. So when we do tests and we do boss battles, and you get questions wrong individually on an individual assignment, what'll happen is that your character will lose 3 to 5 HP per incorrect answer. So this has been really good at motivating kids to make sure that they study and they're on top of their curriculum and their knowledge and understanding of the content, because there's actually a direct repercussion. So someone said, again, what if my character dies? Is there any consequence? You know, our guild represented character dies in battle or dies versus another guild. We randomly throw a dice, and one of those tracking sheets will go down by 25 hit points. So if you're on the fringe and you're not buying food to replenish your health points, and you know you got 18 hit points because you think you're going to crush this assessment, so you're not worried about taking damage, and then all of a sudden you die on the battle board, your character can inflict or can receive up to 25 damage, which will actually knock and kill your character, losing all of your gold and all of your inventory items. So it can take your progress and really step it back if you're not planning, strategizing, and thinking ahead. So our battle board has changed dramatically. We have the new movement from no tile to straight exploration using a 6-inch ruler to match. We've even got, as a side note, cards where you ride a horse or you double movements. So I sometimes roll with a 8 or 12-sided dice for movement. So you can get creative in that in your design as well. We have so that each guild is now represented by a character. That character has starting with the base 75 hit points, and now when they interact with characters, they actually have to equip armor and or weapons to inflict higher damage or block damage that's received to them, which again has been a huge game changer. We've added events, which are deep into curriculum. So you meet someone, they need you to complete said task, you complete said task, you might receive a
you know, an illustrious reward or a rare reward, or you can even tie it to seasons, so you can only win this type during Christmas or this type during, you know, the Easter or spring season, whatever the case may be. And a whole bunch of other variations, from expanding the battle board to including more collaboration strategy and group dynamic. So it's less of a one-off, which a lot of people have kind of referenced, especially our students, of, well, the battle board has become like too repetitive. So now it's a living, breathing thing in our classroom. It is changing with the units, it is changing with the seasons, it is changing with the monsters, it is changing with the events, and it is changing with the movement. So kids are way more in tune and always asking, can I use my battles here? Can I use my roles here? Can we explore the battle board further? And it's been hugely motivating, and I've been noticing that content is coming in better, cleaner, and meeting deadlines a lot more efficiently. So I know it was a bit of a jumble, I know it was a bit of a back and forth. I'll kind of have a follow-up blog post in the next week or so where I put the document on where you can kind of download it for free and check out how I run the new updated battle board. But I hope you found that helpful in BattleBoard 2.0. Future videos, we'll be talking about some augmented reality, how you can use some tech to bring things to life, especially if you're a history teacher, you know, maybe bringing a document to life where you hear the speech that you're talking about, or you actually see the character delivering, you know, doing something that you talk about in your classes. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how I do testing, how I have my monster sheets, my battle sheets, and all those different kinds of things as I progress and I'm back into the video circuit here. So I hope you found that helpful. If you didn't, as always, comment below, let me know. I'll try to clarify, email, contact me through my website, whatever it could be. But I'm in good health, I'm happy, I'm grateful, feeling blessed, so I'm back to creating these videos, and I hope that we can continue to gamify and change education one class, one day at a time. Until next time.